Greetings. In this lesson, we'll talk about the Extrude tool as a warm-up for our poly spaceship. First, we'll create a polygonal cube. If your poly tab is available to you, you can click on the cube. Let me also show you, you can come to create poly primitives. Note, there are NURBS primitives, which we will discuss later on in the semester. But you can come to poly primitives, cube, and the little square at the end is referred to as a dialog box. So we could open that dialog box, and here's the width, height, and depth, and then the number of divisions. And so a standard default polygonal cube is 1 all the way through. And I can hit create. I'll go ahead and delete that just to demonstrate that it's giving us the same result as if we click here on the shelf to create that cube. I'll hit the F key to frame, and just to review, the option left, option middle, and option right, and that's the Alt key on a PC. I'm using a Mac. So option left to rotate around, option middle to track, and option right to zoom in and out. Review the components just very quickly. This is object mode. If I click here, I'm in component mode. I click back to object mode. Note the color difference. It is green as it's selected as an object, and then we have a light blue outline, and the components themselves are a magenta color. So object mode. I can also right click and choose a vertex, an edge, or a face. Let's say I choose face here. We can see that those are highlighting, and I can right click to 2 o'clock object mode to get back out. And then if your modeling toolkit is available, click here on your modeling toolkit, this icon here. And here we are, another way to get into object mode. Here is selecting vertex, here is selecting edges, and here is selecting faces. All right. We're going to be looking at this tool here, Extrude. I'm going to right click and choose face, click the top face, and then I'm just going to hit the Extrude tool once. Click on it. We have a combined manipulator tool, and I'll pull up on the arrow. The arrow allows us to move or translate. And then I'm going to use the scale cube just on this axis here, the x-axis, and I'll drive that together. Now I don't want these lines to come all the way together, right? Because then we might have the problem of having multiple faces in the same place. I'm going to leave that little ridge there, and we'll talk about how you might handle that in a moment. Then I'm just going to click off, and you can see we've created a little kind of monopoly piece of a house. I'm going to undo that, just come all the way back. And let's say we wanted to have a slight overhang on the house. So I'll click that face again. I'll hit extrude. I'm going to pull it up just slightly. Then I'll click on any one of the scale cubes, which gives us our central cube, which proportionately scales. So it scales in all the directions at once rather than just one direction. So we've given ourselves a little ridge here, and let's execute the roof again. We'll hit extrude a second time. I'll pull up on the arrow, and then this time we'll create a non-proportionate scale. Pull that in. And if you wanted to have that pulled back, you could scale that way as well. So we've got our cube, we've extruded this ridge, then we extruded the roof. And you can create a cube and just practice extruding, practice pulling on the arrows, practice non-proportionate scaling where you're just pushing on one cube, and then practice proportionate scaling where you click a cube and then manipulate that central cube. Let me talk about one other aspect of the manipulator tool as it relates to the extrude. Let's say we want to add a chimney. I'm going to grab this face here, And we'll hit extrude. I'm going to click on a cube, gives us our central proportionate cube. I'll scale this in. And let's square it up a little bit first. So I'm going to come to Vertex. We'll just pick these two vertexes. And I'm going to grab the scale tool, the manual scale tool, and I'm just going to pull those together, square that off. I'm just eyeballing it. We'll talk about later how to be very precise. But for now, just eyeball that, get that square enough. You could have also picked the edge. Looks like I didn't quite get it. And just scaled that edge down a little bit. And now let's extrude a chimney, and it'll allow us to talk about the difference between world space and local space. I'm going to hit the Q key just to get off of that manipulator. Right? It's always best if you're not translating something just to have the select tool. Q is a shortcut on the keyboard. We'll come and hit extrude, and this is local space. If I pull on the blue arrow, right, I'm pulling out at that angle. And there are often times when you want that to extrude in local space, and that is the default. I'm going to hit undo, and note there is this switch. It switches, just has two positions, this local space, and then if we click it once, we get world space. And you can see that it's going up and down. So now when I pull it, I'm pulling straight up in world space. I we'll right click and get into object mode, and we can see the top of the chimney is a little bit funny because it has that same angle. Let's talk about how to flatten it out. I'm going to grab all four of those vertices. I right clicked, chose vertex. You could have also just clicked the icon here. I've got those four vertexes selected. It's not a bad idea to hit the 4 key just to make sure that you don't have other vertexes selected. 5 key to get back to shaded. And I'll use the scale tool here, and I'm just going to pull down until I can't pull anymore, and those will now be straightened out. We could, of course, now come to the top, pick that, we could extrude, click a cube, proportionately scale, extrude, and then just push down. So now we have a chimney there. We could make a door, similar workflow. I'll pick a face here. I'll hit extrude, click the cube to proportionately scale it, and now I'll just non-proportionally scale that up and then push it down. I don't want to push it all the way. Let's look down here. We'll talk about topology in the upcoming weeks and how we might solve this. Just for now, we're going to leave the door slightly off. We don't want to cover this face. So we have a face here. It's four-sided, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 edges gives us a quad face, which is what we're working on. And then, right, we could pick this door and extrude it again. Maybe you just pull it back. You could give it a door frame and then extrude again and pull it back. And we have a door. Maybe that's a little too deep. And in fact, maybe we wanted to pull that out. Maybe our door should be out. And then a window would be similar. Let me mention one thing here. I have the grid active, and in this instance, I really don't need the grid. I'm not using it. On your panel, if you come up here, you can see this little grid icon. I can click that to turn that off. I will grab this, hit extrude, click on the cube, gives me the proportionate scale cube, and we can do the same thing. Extrude again, click the cube, scale in, and then extrude, and our window, I guess, would go inside. Now, it's a little bit hard to see. We don't have any shaders or textures. And another little icon up here on your panel, this is Wireframe on Shaded. And we can click that, and that just puts a blue outline on our object. So give that a shot. That will warm you up to the Extrude tool and prepare you to go forward and take a look at the Poly Spaceship playlist, which is due this week. All right, have a good one.